It all started on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where everything feels heavier. The clouds were low, the air was damp, and my spirit, well, let's just say it matched the weather. I had just come back from another job interview that ended with a polite smile and the words, "We'll be in touch." But they never were. My bank account was dry, my bills were stacking up, and my fridge looked more like a sad museum display than a place for food. I was broke. Not just tight on cash broke, but the kind of broke where you start checking under couch cushions hoping to find enough change for instant noodles. I'd been living in this old duplex on the edge of the city, a place I found when I still had steady work. The rent was cheap by today's standards, but even that felt like a mountain I couldn't climb anymore. Every knock on the door made my stomach drop. Every envelope with a red stamp sent a chill down my spine. I knew it was only a matter of time before something had to give. What I didn't expect was the offer that would change everything. My landlord, Marcus, was a towering man with a deep voice and a calm presence. He'd owned the property for years, and while he wasn't the chatty type, there was always something steady and sure about him. He rarely smiled, but when he did, it was that kind of smile that made you wonder what he knew that you didn't. People in the neighborhood respected him, some feared him a little too, but I always saw him as fair. Quiet. Private. A man who had his own story tucked far away from view. I hadn't seen Marcus much lately, but that week, he showed up unannounced. I remember I hadn't even brushed my hair or changed out of my pajama pants when I opened the door. He stood there, dry as a bone, while I looked like I'd been caught in a storm, because I had been, in every sense. I braced myself for the worst. Another warning, maybe an eviction notice. But instead, he just looked at me and said, "We need to talk." There was something in his voice that didn't sound like the usual landlord talk. No frustration, no pressure. Just calm. He stepped inside without saying much more, just took a seat like he owned not just the building, but the moment too. And in a way, he did. I sat across from him, trying to keep my hands from shaking. My pride was already on the floor, and I figured he was here to sweep it up for good. Then he said something I didn't expect at all. "I know things have been hard for you," he started, slowly. "And I've been thinking. Maybe there's something we can work out." I didn't know what he meant. I mean, yeah, I'd fallen behind on rent, but I was doing everything I could. Selling old clothes, picking up whatever freelance gigs I could find online, even skipping meals. I looked up, confused, waiting for the catch. And then he leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine, not in a threatening way, but serious, intense. What I'm about to say might sound strange. But I want you to hear me out before you react. And just like that, everything changed. My heart was racing. A million thoughts ran through my head. What could he possibly mean? What kind of arrangement was he talking about? Was this some kind of joke? Or worse? I wanted to believe he was trying to help. I wanted to believe that maybe this was one of those rare moments in life where someone reaches out, not for what they can get, but for what they can give. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more under the surface. That conversation turned into a night I will never forget. A night that tested everything I thought I knew about loyalty, desperation, and how far someone might go when the walls start closing in. But before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand something. This isn't just a story about money. It's about choices. About crossing lines you never thought you'd cross. And about a moment that can change your life forever. So, what did Marcus offer me? You're not ready for that part yet. But I promise, when you hear it, you'll understand why nothing was ever the same after. Marcus didn't rush into it. He just sat there, steady, like he had all the time in the world. Meanwhile, I was barely breathing. My thoughts were spinning. Every possible scenario, some good, most not, flashed through my mind. I thought maybe he was going to offer a payment plan, or maybe let me stay a little longer without rent. I was hoping for that. But hoping felt dangerous around Marcus. He had that calm energy, but under it was something unreadable. "I know things can get tight," he said again, voice low but clear. "I've been there. Worse, even." I blinked. Marcus didn't seem like the type who'd ever been broke. The man drove a sleek black truck that looked brand new. Always dressed in fresh clothes, heavy gold ring on his finger. He had a quiet confidence, the kind people build over years of getting what they want and knowing exactly how to ask for it. "I wasn't always like this," he said, like he'd read my thoughts. "I've had my days too. That's why I try not to judge people. But I also don't like seeing potential go to waste." That word, the potential, caught me off guard. He wasn't talking like a landlord. He was talking like he saw something in me. Like maybe I was more than just another late rent notice. I wanted to ask what he meant, but my mouth stayed shut. It felt like we were in the middle of something delicate, like one wrong word would snap the air between us. He leaned back slightly, studying me, waiting. It felt like he was sizing up not just my situation, but who I was underneath it all. "I don't usually offer people options like this," he continued. "But you seem like someone who knows how to survive. And I respect that." I nodded slowly, still not sure where this was going. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the faint buzz of a neighbor's TV through the thin walls. Everything else in the world felt quiet, like it was holding its breath with me. He looked me in the eyes again, more serious now. "You need help. I can help you. But it comes with terms. Not money for nothing kind of help. I'm not a charity." I felt my shoulders tighten. There it was, the catch. But still, he hadn't said what the terms were. Just left them hanging in the air like fog. I wanted to ask. I needed to ask. But part of me was scared of the answer. He finally stood up, slow and controlled, like he was giving me time to think without saying anything more. I followed him to the door, heart still pounding. Before leaving, he turned to me one more time and said, "Think it over. I'll come back tomorrow." And then he was gone. That night, I barely slept. I stared at the ceiling, playing back every word, every look. What did he see in me? What did he want from me? Was it something I could live with? Was it something I'd regret? The thing is, when you're desperate, your mind starts doing strange things. It starts rearranging your morals, adjusting your limits. You tell yourself it's just temporary, just to get through the worst part. But the truth is, some choices don't just disappear when your situation gets better. Some things stay with you. I started thinking about the past few months. Losing my job. Watching friends pull away once I had nothing left to offer. Skipping dinner to cover internet bills, walking instead of catching the bus. No one really prepares you for the slow sinking feeling of hitting rock bottom. And when someone throws you a rope, even if you can't see the other end clearly, it's hard not to reach out. Marcus didn't come across as dangerous. He came across as controlled. But there's something about a quiet man with power that keeps you guessing. He never once raised his voice. Never made any kind of move. But still, I felt that he knew exactly what he was doing. And maybe that scared me more than if he'd been loud or pushy. The next day came fast, and before I knew it, there was another knock on the door. Same knock. Same stillness behind it. I stood there, hand on the knob, knowing that whatever happened next, whether I said yes, no, or asked more questions, my life wasn't going back to what it was. And as I opened the door, there he was again. Calm. Collected. And ready to make the offer I still wasn't sure I was ready to hear. Marcus stepped in without asking, same as before. He moved with quiet confidence, like this was already his space. I stood back, letting him pass, part of me frozen in place, the other part already trying to figure out if this was a mistake. He didn't speak right away. He sat down again in the same spot, his posture relaxed but his eyes watching me closely. It felt like I was being tested, like he was waiting to see how far I'd let this go before pulling away. "I'm going to be straight with you," he said finally, his voice even. "You're in a bad spot. I can help fix that. But I'm offering something real, and real things come with weight. You understand?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I did. Everything about the way he spoke made it sound like he wasn't just talking about money or rent anymore. There was something more behind it, something personal. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. "I have someone in my life. Someone I care about deeply. But things have gotten complicated." The words caught me off guard. Up until now, it felt like he had total control of everything. But for the first time, I saw a flicker of something else, doubt, maybe even frustration. He didn't say her name. Just called her someone. "She's not who she used to be," he continued. "Lately, I feel like I'm living with a stranger. But I don't walk away from what I build. I'm not that kind of man." I stayed quiet, unsure where this was going but sensing that it was closer now. Whatever he was about to ask, it wasn't going to be simple. "I need a distraction," he said. "Someone I can trust. Someone who understands what it means to keep quiet. Who knows how to handle things that aren't black and white." My throat went dry. I understood then what kind of offer this really was. It wasn't just about rent. It wasn't just about helping me out of a bad spot. He was looking for something emotional, maybe even physical, but cloaked under careful words and long pauses. It wasn't explicit. But it didn't have to be. I didn't answer right away. My mind was spinning. Part of me wanted to walk out, leave the room, shut this down. But the other part, tired, broke, and emotionally worn, couldn't ignore the chance to finally catch a break, even if it came with strings I didn't fully understand. And that's when a second conflict started brewing. Not with Marcus. With myself. Who was I becoming just by considering this? I thought of my boyfriend, well, ex-boyfriend, technically. We hadn't spoken in weeks, but his name still sat heavy in my phone. He had his own secrets, and the silence between us had grown into something permanent. Maybe that's why a small part of me didn't feel as guilty as I should have. Like some part of me had already crossed a line when the relationship started to rot. Marcus didn't press for an answer. He stood again, slower this time. "Think on it," he said. "This door doesn't stay open forever." And with that, he left. Again. But this time, the room didn't feel quiet. It felt full of questions I didn't know how to answer. What was I really willing to trade for survival? And how far was too far when you already feel like you've lost everything? The tension hadn't just come from outside anymore. It was living inside me now. Days passed, but the weight of Marcus's offer didn't lift. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that calm, unreadable look in his eyes, like he was holding back something huge, something that could change everything if I said yes. My mind raced through every possible outcome, twisting the situation in all directions. What if I said no and got kicked out? What if I said yes and lost myself? The line between desperation and dignity blurred more with every thought. I found myself watching the clock, waiting for the moment Marcus would show up again. Part of me hoped he wouldn't, that somehow this nightmare would just fade away. But deep down, I knew that door wasn't closing unless I made a choice. And choices like these don't come with easy answers. I thought about my life before all this, the plans I had, the dreams that felt so far away now. There was a quiet fear creeping in, a fear that this moment would change me forever. Maybe not just my circumstances, but who I was at my core. That scared me more than any eviction notice ever could. When Marcus finally came back, the tension in the room was electric. Neither of us said much at first. The silence stretched, filled with the weight of unspoken things. He looked different this time, less distant, more urgent. Like he needed me to understand just how serious this was. "I'm not asking for a yes today," he said softly. But I need you to see what's at stake. This isn't just about rent or survival. It's about trust. Loyalty. Things that matter when everything else falls apart. His words hit me harder than I expected. Trust. Loyalty. Things I thought I had but suddenly wasn't sure about anymore. And just then, the phone rang, sharply cutting through the stillness. Marcus glanced at it, then back at me, his face unreadable. "I have to take this," he said, voice tight. As he stepped away, the room felt like it was closing in. I realized that whatever this offer was, it wasn't just about me or him anymore. There were other pieces moving behind the scenes, secrets that could explode if I made the wrong move. And that's when I knew, whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same again. Marcus stepped away to take the call, his voice dropping to a low murmur that I couldn't quite catch. I was left alone in the room, heart hammering, every instinct telling me this wasn't just a normal phone call. The tension wrapped tighter around me, heavier than before. When he returned, something in his expression had shifted, his eyes darker, his jaw tighter. "I have to be honest," Marcus said, sitting back down, but this time with a different weight in his voice. "There's more going on than you know. Things that complicate this whole situation." I swallowed hard, trying to keep calm. What more could there possibly be? The rent was overdue, the offer was complicated enough, but now it felt like I was stepping into something far bigger. "There's someone else," Marcus continued slowly. "Someone from my past who's come back. And it's causing problems, not just for me, but for this building, for everyone here." He looked away for a moment, then back at me. "I need someone I can trust more than ever. Someone who understands what it means to keep things quiet when the stakes are high. That's why I reached out to you." His words sent a chill through me. This wasn't just about rent or personal favors anymore. This was something dangerous. Something that could spiral out of control if it got out. My mind raced. What kind of trouble was Marcus talking about? Was this linked to the quiet power he held in the neighborhood? Was I now part of a secret I never signed up for? Before I could ask, Marcus's phone buzzed again. This time, he ignored it, but the air between us thickened. The quiet tension felt almost suffocating. I realized that the offer he made before was only the beginning. Now, there were layers of risk, secrets, and pressure pressing down on me like never before. The question wasn't just whether I'd accept the deal anymore. It was whether I was ready to step into a world I didn't fully understand, one that might cost me everything. That night, everything came to a head. Marcus called me again, this time asking me to meet him at the building's rooftop. My heart was pounding, not just from fear, but from a strange mix of curiosity and something I couldn't quite name. When I arrived, the city lights stretched out below us, but all I could focus on was Marcus's face, serious and tense. He didn't waste time. "The person from my past, she's been causing trouble for months. Threatening to expose things that could ruin me and everyone I care about." His eyes searched mine, looking for understanding, maybe even an ally. "I need you to help me keep this secret safe. Help me protect what I've built." I realized then that Marcus's offer wasn't about money or favors, it was about trust, loyalty, and survival. I wasn't just a tenant anymore. I was part of something bigger, tangled in a web I barely understood but couldn't walk away from. I agreed, not because I had much choice, but because somewhere inside me, I found strength I didn't know I had. Together, we faced the threat. The tension reached a breaking point when the woman appeared, unexpected and cold. But Marcus was ready, and so was I. We kept our secret safe, but the cost was clear. Trust came with sacrifices. Just when I thought the storm had passed, Marcus turned to me, voice low and serious. "There's one more thing you need to know. The woman, she's not just trouble from my past. She's someone from your past too." My breath caught. The web I was tangled in was far more complicated and darker than I ever imagined. And now, there was no turning back. The moment Marcus said those words, everything came crashing down. I struggled to breathe, my mind racing through memories I'd tried to bury. The woman threatening him was someone I knew, someone I thought I'd left behind for good. Suddenly, the lines between past and present blurred in a way I never expected. Marcus looked at me with a mix of concern and something like apology. This isn't just about keeping a building safe anymore. It's about protecting both of our futures. I realized then that my desperate situation had pulled me into a complicated, messy world of secrets, loyalty, and survival that stretched far beyond rent payments or financial struggles. It was about trust, the kind that demands sacrifice and courage. Marcus wasn't just my landlord anymore, he was someone I depended on, and maybe, in some way, someone who depended on me too. As the days went on, we managed to keep the peace, protecting each other in ways I never thought possible. I found new strength in the unexpected alliance, and even as the weight of the past lingered, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. Looking back, the experience taught me that sometimes, when you're at your lowest, help comes from the most unlikely places. And that survival isn't just about money, it's about the people you trust, the choices you make, and the courage to face whatever comes next. Life hasn't been easy since, but I'm still here, still standing. And that, in itself, feels like a victory. 5.